Folks, we are wandering into spoiler territory. This is your one warning. It is spoiler central here. Daredevil Born Again has finally ended its season run for season 1, and it ended with a bang, or multiple, as we get a proper return of Punisher, and and Punisher came with some guns. So we're going to talk about the series as a whole. We're going to kind of focus on the finale, and we're going to discuss the whole thing of Daredevil Born Again right now, and it's kind of space in the greater MCU world. Jay, I'm going to start with you. Scale of 1 to 10, where do you rate the series?
Ooh, series. I really didn't have any issues with the series. Super pumped, super excited, shocking, surprising. Um, I would go with like a 9. Yeah.
Okay, I'm not going to go quite as high. I'm going to go like it's a solid 7. Keep in mind, 5 is an average show. 5 is average, people. 5 is not bad. 5 means it's average. It's okay. Like, I thought Moon Knight was a 5, right? It's fine. It wasn't the greatest thing. It wasn't horrible, but it wasn't good.
Yeah.
I'm going to go 7. There was a couple things that kind of like, where I was like, wow, that was a weird tonal shift. The bank episode in particular.
Yeah.
Like, started off really light. It's like, look, I'm Kamala's dad, and here's her Funko Pop. I'd come over for dinner. And I was getting vibes from like the She-Hulk Matt Murdock, which is still canon. Like, that happened, right?
Yeah.
From that episode. And we know that they did a big retooling on the series between when they first started shooting it, and then they basically scrapped everything and started over, but kept as much as they could. I'm wondering if part of that came from the original kind of run where it might have been a little more lighthearted.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Chat's generally giving it an 8. And we're going to talk about the conclusion of this here in a second. I'll be honest. It started off a little bad for me because when they shot Foggy in that first episode, I was pissed.
Yeah.
I was like, F you. You're not going to kill Foggy right now. Right?
Yeah.
Because I love Foggy.
Oh, yeah.
I love the actor who played Foggy. I love him in Mighty Ducks.
Oh. I didn't really put that together.
Yeah, he's the big enforcer guy in the first Mighty Ducks movie.
Holy shit.
And in Mighty Ducks 2. And in Mighty Ducks 3. It's Mighty Ducks. Anyway, Foggy also played hockey. Anyway, so I thought that the season started off a little rough. I was a little like, what are we doing here? And then, don't get me wrong, I was glad he yeeted Bullseye off a roof. That was funny to me. Like, I laughed when he yeeted Bullseye off the roof. I was like, oh, damn. This is where we're at. Any particular episode that you like the most or moments that you want to pick out?
Fuck. I really liked episode 1. Because I went in and I rewatched every single episode before that in the previous series to kind of like
Prep,
refresh and like get ready for this Daredevil. So yeah, you watch that very first episode and you are like, oh god, like it hits hard. But and I was not expecting it. Like I was not expecting them to like come in and just kill him off, especially not in the very first episode. So having that, I think like really set the tone for me for the entire season.
Mm-hmm.
And then you finally see Matt Murdock like, fuck it, like I don't care, and he admits it in the season finale. Like he's like, I tried to kill him. Like I threw him off the building thinking he was gonna die. Like,
yeah.
damn.
I liked that first scene with Punisher and him, where Punisher's like, it's not about Foggy. Say his name. Say his name.
Yeah.
right? Don't come to me with this grief crap and then like try and like run up on me about some stuff, right? Like no, 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 no. Um, I thought that scene was perfect.
Yeah.
Um, again, the bank episode was a little jarring. I was like, okay. And then I was like, I think we filmed this last part later where he goes and finds the guy afterwards and like breaks his leg and like you're like, okay, all right. Back to it, eh, Matt? What did you think of so let's take kind of this whole storyline as a whole. We'll take them in pieces. So the Mayor storyline, Mayor Fisk. Obviously, this is a classic one from the comic books. Chat's pointing out that yeah, there's some maybe some parallels to a current political situation that felt awful familiar with Mayor Fisk running for New York. What did you think of that storyline?
I really liked it. I did really felt like it was very I don't know, relatable to current events. Especially even the season finale, like that
Yeah,
very kind of end scene when it's like, no, like it's up to us, like we need to like band together and rise up
yeah.
against him. Like this isn't his city. I
But
was like, holy shit, are they like talking to the American
so
people right now?
I loved the scene in the diner where he's like,
Mhm.
"What's up?" Right?
Yeah.
And you kind of get this sense that Fisk is trying to take it down a notch, where he's like, "Look, I'm not trying to do this gangster shit anymore." Right?
Yeah.
He tells
Yeah.
his wife, like, "Yo, you got to chill." Right?
Which I never really bought into. I was like, nah, he's gonna like some part of the season, it's gonna come out that
It's
he's
gonna.
faking.
We figured that was gonna happen, but I was like, okay. And then he wins, right?
Yep.
And then we get some kind of baseline politics. And as the season progresses, he gets worse and worse and worse and worse again.
Yep.
Right? Which leads us into storyline 2, because as part of the whole political thingy, like episode 2 or 3, they're like, hey, look, the fact that your wife's not participating, the fact that she's kind of invisible is really noticeable politically. And so they go to therapy with Matt's girlfriend.
Oh God.
Right?
Oh.
Because Matt's girlfriend in this series, and we're going to come to this, that'll be our next thread to pull at. Matt's girlfriend is a psychiatrist, right? She's like this famous book-ready psychiatrist. And so Kingpin and Vanessa, because when Kingpin, and I kind of like pull this out for our viewers. So they're not clear as to whether Fisk blipped. I'm not entirely certain whether he blipped during the Thanos blip or he was there for that 5 years and just didn't get killed by Ronan when Ronan was running around killing all the mafia guys. Put that aside. Yeah. But we come back from the blip. We see him in Hawkeye. So he's starting to rebuild his criminal empire in New York in Hawkeye. Echo shoots him in the face. And apparently what they're intimating in Daredevil is at that point he goes off to recover physically and just kind of disappears for a while. And like a long while, like I'm gathering more than a year or two while he's recovering. And then the events that we see in the Echo show, right? Before he comes back to New York going, all right, I'm going to run for mayor. And Vanessa takes over the crime syndicate and then starts banging the handyman, I think he was.
Yeah. Yep, that happened.
Right?
Yep.
And so, again, Fisk is going, I want to run for New York. Vanessa's like, I've been running the criminal empire while you're gone, and I'm in charge now. Also, I was diddling this dude. Yep. And Fisk is like, I'm mad. She's like, don't kill that guy, and we'll get to that in a second. Right? Fisk is like, I won't kill him. And then they go to therapy with Matt's girlfriend, right? Who takes them on. And it's like every episode has a marriage counseling scene, which I thought was interesting. What did you think of that storyline, like underlying the politics?
Ooh. I liked it. I thought it was really interesting because you end the previous like series with them very much like kind of like madly in love, like he's doing everything for her, she really likes it.
She's kind of okay with the whole evil criminal empire thing.
Yeah, even in like the final scene where like the Kingpin's fighting Daredevil, like it's all kind of like revolving around her a little bit. Like he's trying to get her to leave and trying to kind of protect her. It's in a very weird way, but um, yeah, I don't know. It's you saw them kind of just madly in love, and now you see them on like the other side of like I guess like after the honeymoon, and they're having these issues. He's obviously trying to like become
More powerful in his own way.
more powerful, but like more legit.
Ish. Or so we
It,
think at first.
yeah, that's what he tried to like lead us to believe.
Yep.
Um, yeah, and then you have her like just like no, like I want to do this. Like I've done a really good job. I've built this. Like fuck you. So you see that friction, which I thought was like really kind of interesting, like kind of switching it up a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
But it's also like her kind of like tempting him to like stay in the lifestyle, kind of.
Yeah, she wants him to go back to being criminal empire dude, right?
Yeah.
Not run for mayor.
Yeah.
Um, so that leads us to Matt gets a new girlfriend through his new lawyer partner that he goes to after he closes down Nelson and Murdoch because Foggy gets shot because F us. Apparently we don't get to have nice things, right?
And very common Bad Boys 2
Right. Yep.
vibes. You go to therapy to bang your therapist.
You know, and so he goes and starts dating this therapist lady. And for the first 5 episodes of the season, like things are pretty clean, right? We have the Muse storyline, which comes to a head at the very end with one of the guys that she's giving therapy to is Muse and tries to kill her, and Daredevil shows up and they fight. But in the end, it's actually his girlfriend who puts 4 in his chest. She gets the gun and she's like, dap, 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 right? And then her trauma, and then she's like, I thought it was funny at the end of all that when she's like, could you get me an interview with the Punisher because you defended him in court? And he's like, you want to talk to the Punisher? Like, she's like, well, you know these people, like Punisher and Daredevil, and I think Daredevil and Muse are the same, and that's where Matt starts to be like, what?
Well, it even started a little bit before that. I forgot what episode, but she kind of like, I want to say that she was in his apartment, and like maybe the news story comes on about like Daredevil and shit, and she kind of goes off on like talking about how like like the psychology behind like hiding behind a mask and the Daredevil is a criminal and like all this stuff, and he was like, wait, what? Like, so yeah, they kind of like pulled on it kind of throughout the season, which I thought it was kind of like speaking to the people that like find out that they're dating like a secret like MAGA girl, it's like, oh shit.
Yep. The other thing in that whole storyline with the mask thing again is going back to Fisk as part of his like, I'm going to clean up the vigilantes. And they make a brief reference to Spider-Man and other vigilantes at the beginning of the season. Like, there's a spider guy and the devil and da-da-da-da-da, and I'm done with these vigilantes. And he kind of like tries to slow play it for a minute, especially after him and Murdoch had that conversation. He's like, you're not the devil anymore. And he's like, nope. Because Matt tells Kingpin, I'm not doing it anymore. Right?
Yeah.
And so Kingpin initially slow plays the whole vigilante thing before I think he realizes that slow playing it is not going to solve his vigilante problem, right? Before he goes full fucking martial law authoritarian, right?
Fucking Trump.
But they kind of build all that in there very nicely with the underside of Matt's girlfriend being like, all these people in masks are the same. And then after Muse gets murked, she's like, Daredevil and Muse are the same. And he's like, whoa, 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 whoa. Wait a minute. Stop right there. And again, the whole time she is 100,000% in the dark about him being Daredevil. And initially, like, it all makes sense because he's done being Daredevil. When he meets her, I'm not Daredevil right now. Nope.
Yeah.
And as he gets pulled back in, right? As he gets pulled back into it, he's got to, I think, start making a decision as to whether he wants to tell his girlfriend that he's the devil from Hell's Kitchen. he does eventually be like, he figures out that she's been giving therapy to Kingpin. And then he's like, wait, you're going to this party that Kingpin's throwing, right? In the penultimate episode. Don't go. Trust me when I tell you, this guy is, I don't care if he's the mayor. I don't give a crap. He's bad fucking news. The part where I stopped, I couldn't decide whether I stopped liking her character. What's her character's name? Chat, help me out here. I can't think of the therapist lady's name. I keep wanting to say Heather, but I don't think that's it. When he's like, trust me, this is a bad dude. Yep. And all through the series, like, they've built this up to the point where she's basically living with him. They're dropping the L-bomb. I love you. But for whatever reason, she's just like, you don't know what you're talking about. Like, she completely ignores him, basically. And he keeps trying to tell her, like, dude, don't go to this ball. Don't get involved with this guy. It's bad juju. Nothing good will come of it. And she's just like, pshaw. And I couldn't decide whether I felt that was unrealistic based on what I'd seen or whether I just thought she was being a butthead. What are your thoughts there?
So I think it, like, depends. I was kind of curious, like, does she... I don't think they actually, like, talked about it in the TV show. But, like, is she, like, doing research on, like, vigilantes? Like,
she talks about it later in the series. After she gets done with Muse, she's like, I figured out what my next book's going to be. I was talking to my publisher, and it's going to be about the mask. And that was when she asked to interview Punisher. And he's like, you want to talk to Frank Castle? Like, are you insane? Like, he's nuts.
Yeah. So I kind of believe it because I think that's, like, realistic to me because, like, you have a
that she just thought she was smarter than Matt, that he just didn't know what he was talking about.
Well, yeah, like, hey, like, I've done this research. I did my thesis in this or whatever, you know, like, I'm the therapist, like, you.
And I've been treating this guy.
Yeah, you're a lawyer. Like, you have no idea what you're talking about. 100% I could see it.
So, yeah, in which case I just don't like her anymore because I'm like, you are dumb.
Yeah.
So that brings us to Matt, the kind of the third storyline. So we have the multiple layered storylines. We've got the Kingpin politics storyline. We've got the Kingpin, like, therapy storyline. Then we have the Matt grief storyline, which he starts to kind of get through with his relationship with the therapist, who I'm going to keep calling that because I still can't remember what her name is. And then we get the Muse storyline, which somebody in the chat said they felt was kind of pointless. Do you think it was kind of pointless?
It kind of was.
I mean, I understood what it did to, like, as an inciting incident, right? Yeah. To make him be Daredevil again.
Yeah.
When the little girl comes to him and she's like, nobody's doing anything about this, da-da-da-da-da, and then Muse takes her. And he's like, crap. I don't have a choice. And when he goes up to the roof and he's like... So to me, all it was inciting incident to make him be Daredevil again.
Yeah. Her name is Sheila, I think.
Okay.
Sheila?
Maybe. Chat, check on that for us. I thought it wasn't well developed. I don't think the Muse storyline was well developed. I think they could have spent some more time with that. I honestly, and I'm going to come back to this in a little bit, I feel like they could have squeezed out 2 more episodes.
Yeah.
That's the reason I don't put, one of the reasons I don't put it at a 9. Number 1, it feels like they needed 2 more episodes. They needed to flesh out Muse a little more, and they needed another episode after the finale. I'm sorry, you just do. You need 1 more, right? It doesn't feel done. So, putting that aside, that's why I don't think it's a 9. So, we end up at the ball, right? Which is when Matt figures out that it was actually Vanessa who had Foggy murked, not Kingpin, right? And he shows up to the ball, and then he, like, cuts in on the first dance with Kingpin and his New York first lady.
Yep.
And he's like, I know it was you. I know it was you. Meanwhile, Bullseye breaks out of prison.
Yep.
Because Matt smashed his face into a table and he like held onto his own tooth and spit his tooth into the dude's eye and then killed everybody. So that's cool. We got that section of the show. But and then we get the big thing. He goes, "Hey, I know you killed Foggy, you dumb twat." He doesn't know why yet. He hasn't figured out why yet.
Yeah.
But then he hears Bullseye loading the gun, and he decides to save Fisk's life. Which is heroic, if stupid.
Yeah, that part I will say, I felt like that was out of place for me. Like, you admitted to throwing Bullseye off like the roof to kill him.
Mm-hmm. Now he's back to the point of being Daredevil again. He doesn't want to kill people anymore. It was in that moment right as he's hearing Foggy die.
Yeah.
Because you remember, he hears Foggy's heart stop in that first episode, which is when he yeets Bullseye off the roof.
Yep.
Right? So, okay. I'll give you that one moment.
Yeah.
But now he's back to I don't want to kill anybody. And we're going to talk about that more in a second. But he jumps in front. He takes the bullet for Kingpin. And then, and this is where Kingpin gets smart. He's like, well, obviously Bullseye's a vigilante. He's not thinking of him as a bad guy. He's a vigilante like the rest of vigilantes. Take my brown shirts and go into the streets and get all the vigilantes. Right? Because the vigilante tried to kill me and Matt Murdock. He sends his dude, Buck, to go try and kill Matt. That guy fails because he's stupid. Because Daredevil. Daredevil escapes the hospital. And then we're reuniting and it feels so good. Right? Karen comes back. But in a moment, because the first one to come back is our buddy Frank Castle. Right? So Buck fails to kill Daredevil at the hospital. Daredevil escapes, goes back to his apartment, gets his Daredevil suit on, and Frank's there. And Frank's like, "Sup, dude?
I shaved for you.
I shaved for you. I'm not Beardy McBeardface anymore, and I've got all my cool stuff on." And that's when the anti-vigilante brown shirt task force shows up to take out Matt Murdock. Take out Daredevil. But things do not go their way. I loved this fight scene. Because Matt, the whole time, is trying to convince Punisher to not kill these guys. He's like beating them up his Daredevil way. And Punisher's like, yeah, whatever. Blah, 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 blah. Like, he's just like, whatever. I mean, he's just murking everybody around him. While Daredevil's like, no, Frank, don't do it. He's like, whatever, blam. So what did you think of that whole sequence?
I loved it. It definitely reminded me of like the previous series. I didn't have the same exact. Once they got over the very, I don't know, the rough period of their friendship, if you want to call it that, they were kind of like that, where like they would like, they had a couple of scenes where they would kind of partner up, and it was Daredevil like, no, Frank, don't kill them. And Frank is just like, I don't care.
Stab.
So, yeah, it just like reminds me of, it felt very in character for the Punisher and the Daredevil. Yeah, I liked it.
I'm also glad because Disney did not wuss out on the violence.
Yep.
It was a brutal fight, though not the most brutal thing from that episode.
Oh, God. No.
Okay.
Oh, God.
We're going to move through this one pretty quick. But Kingpin's been kind of off and on with the police commissioner in New York since he becomes the mayor. He summons the police commissioner and then becomes an orthodontist. In the worst way, like rips the police commissioner's jaw off.
Yeah.
Like, that was brutal. But he does it in front. And what's funny is you see a couple of them, and you can hear it in the sound. I was listening on my headphones, so I had good sound. There's a couple of the, like, brown shirt task force guys who were like, they make, like, the gaggy noise. Because Kingpin's being like, mess with me. He is showing his dominance to those task force guys. And I liked the scene, but that was brutal. Do you think that one was maybe a touch over the top? Like, I get it in character, but what did you think of that scene?
To me, it makes sense because, like, it is that, like, hey, like, I've kind of built your trust a little bit, like, as mayor, not really, but kind of, sort of. You've at least, like, invited me into your house, right? So I'm here now. But, like, here's, like, a reminder, like, I'm not this, like, weak little politician like you guys that, we're gonna make deals, like, in the corner and shit. Like, this is who I am. Like, just fucking just rips the dude's jaw off. Like, I wasn't expecting.
No,
I
was expecting, like, maybe a beating. Like a classic Kingpin beating, like he did to the Atom guy earlier, where he beats him up and then throws him back in the cell. He gives the Atom guy an axe. He's like, come on. He just beats the snot out of him. He's like, all right, I feel better now. Then we get Punisher, who goes to the task force place and shows up, and they're like, Punisher, we love you. And he's like, screw you, blah, 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 and starts killing them all. And then they finally, like, overwhelm him and capture him. They sit him down, and they're like, they're all wearing the Punisher skulls. And this, I thought, was the best, my favorite part of the writing. And there are some people out there right now who watch that and are upset. Because the Punisher logo with, like, the blue line became very popular with law enforcement. It's been a thing for a while now. And, like, in real life, right? So you got all these, like, anti-vigilante task force guys, and they all got Punisher skulls painted on their armor. And the guy's like, Frank, we look up to you. We like you. We want to be like you. And see, look. And he's like, you guys are clowns, and I wouldn't piss on you if you were on fire.
Yeah. That's classic Punisher, dude. Like,
but I think the fact that he was like, you cops don't get it.
Yeah.
Like, you cops are running around here acting like you're all like, I'm on your side. Like, I do this because you guys suck.
Yeah.
Which, again, goes back to the comics, which is, again, the funny thing about the real life about cops being like, I love Punisher. It's like, the Punisher doesn't like cops.
Yeah.
Like, oh yeah, and then in the show, they all get their little Punisher skull tattooed on their neck, the bad guy cops. And he's like, what the fuck are you guys doing? Like, no, you're clowns. So they beat him up. Now, this is, again, a part where I get it. We're going to talk about some of the writing stuff. I get it. If I was writing, like, real life, you better fucking shoot Frank Castle in the face. Like, you better kill him right now. Nope, we're going to capture him and stick him in a cage. That was a mistake. We're going to come back to that in a second.
Yep.
And then we kind of get it in Daredevil. He's like, I can't fight these guys right now, so I got to go recruit people. That's when we get Karen and the cop dudes and the bartender lady. And hopefully next season we'll get some, like, I don't know, Luke Cage to help him out. Then we get the post-credit scene, which was hilarious. Because Frank's like, hi, I'm nice. Hi, guard guy. You're from Jersey. I like you. You're nice. And then he's like, here, shake my hand. And then he rips the guy's. I was like, you're stupid. Like, you knew where it was going. The minute Frank was being nice to the guy, you were like, oh, you're dumb. You guys like Punisher, and you think he's being your friend. You're about to get beat up really bad.
Yep.
And he does. Some of the criticism I saw, where's Spider-Man? They referred to Spider-Man. Why didn't Spider-Man help out? This is the problem with a big connected universe. Now, the piece of this show where you would be like, where are the other heroes, is really only in the last episode. It's when the blackout happens. and all the stuff is happening. Before that, you could be like, they don't know what's going on because they're not on that side of town and they didn't watch the news that day.
Yeah.
The blackout is really where you go, where the hell is Jessica Jones, Luke Cage, Spider-Man? Like, they had to write out Kamala Khan, right? And they do it in the episode where he's like, my daughter's in California visiting a friend. I'm like, okay, hence why when the bank is robbed, Kamala Khan doesn't light beam herself over from Jersey to fix it, right? Yeah. We've got to write these out. And the problem you have is, and somebody, I saw this on another show, they were like, well, what about She-Hulk, right? Jen knows, Matt. The problem is if you bring She-Hulk into this, the show is over in 4 minutes. Jen shows up. She turns into She-Hulk. She looks at their little anti-vigilante task force. She goes, tee hee 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 hee.
Oh gosh.
And then they're all dead. Yeah. Like, yeah. That's it. Kind of the same thing with Spider-Man. The problem is Spider-Man is too powerful, right?
Yeah.
Now, if I was a writer on this particular show, I would have tossed a line in the final episode. You know how they've got the radio, how Punisher's listening to the radio, the anti-vigilante task force running around? I would have thrown in a couple of lines of, we don't have control of Queens because the Spider guy, because we know Spider-Man's from Queens, because the Spider guy is messing our people up. We do not have control of Queens. Like, we just can't. Because again, I don't care how good your anti-vigilante task force is. They're humans.
Yep.
He is Spider-Man. He fought a purple alien on Earth and in space, to quote Spider-Man No Way Home, right? He fought Thanos.
Yeah. Yeah.
In the structure of the MCU, Kingpin wants nothing to do with Spider-Man.
Yeah, definitely not.
Okay. Where are the Avengers? The Avengers don't really exist right now. If you remember after Endgame, they all kind of like, Steve's old.
Yep.
Tony's dead. Right?
Just sleeping.
Yeah. Tony's dead.
Yep.
Bruce leaves World for a long time to go get his son. Right? Kind of comes back, consults with Shang-Chi, does some other stuff, but he's not really around, right?
Yep.
Thor is off doing Thor stuff with his adopted daughter, defending weird aliens, right? Yep. So he's just not on Earth. Captain Marvel's not on Earth. There are no Avengers right now. And you see that in the Thunderbolts trailer where Valentina, she's like, the Avengers aren't going to come save us, right? They've said it multiple times in the Thunderbolts trailer. Right now, there are no Avengers. That's, again, you're talking about, but there's still heroes around. Yes. And again, that's the problem with a shared cinematic universe. Again, all the stuff where it would gain a lot of notice all happens in one night, right? Yeah. Matt escapes, Kingpin shuts off the power, takes over the city, declares martial law. By morning, it's over. He turns the power back on and everybody's kind of back to normal-ish, right? But again, I would have tossed in a line of, the Spider guy is kicking our butts.
And I've always thought,
and the task force being like, we're just going to leave Queens. Fuck it.
Yeah. I've always thought about it like every superhero kind of has its like territory.
Zone.
Like zone. And for you to, okay, so.
You've been to New York, haven't you?
Yeah, God.
So here's the thing. I walked the distance, like the length.
He's going the distance.
Of Manhattan. You can do it. It's not that big.
Yeah.
Go ahead, though. They got their zone.
I think they have their zone, right? And I think, like, for you to, like, escalate something outside of your zone, like, does it make sense for Daredevil? I think really old school, like, Adam West style Batman. Like, is Batman going to pick up a phone and be like, hey, Thor, there's like a really bad gangster guy. Like, I know you're like battling like galactic aliens, but like, could you help me with this gangster guy in my territory? Like, it has to be like a world event, I feel like, for the Avengers to assemble and get involved. Like, otherwise, they're just kind of staying in their like little zone.
Again, that's why my only gripe is Spider-Man. I would have thrown in some lines because at the end of No Way Home, he's back to friendly neighborhood Spider-Man. He's living in a crappy studio apartment somewhere in New York, right? He made his own suit, like with a sewing machine, and he's running across a rooftop. I get not putting people here, and I presume that Kamala is visiting Hawkeye, Little Miss Hawkeye, out in Los Angeles. I assume that's where she is. Rhodey, I think, is in Virginia, and again, all this happens in one night. Like, so
Yep.
War Machine, Falcon, they're somewhere else. They're not in New York. And in fact, I think War Machine's in Los Angeles, right? I think he's based out of California. Because that was where Tony was. And where that Air Force base was. So I can see them not showing up. Spider-Man's the one that bugs me the most. And again, I would have just tossed in some dialogue.
Yeah.
Spider-Man could spend the whole night just fighting off anti-vigilante guys and webbing them up. And not knowing where Kingpin was.
Yeah.
And again, Spider-Man might not have the knowledge that Kingpin's really behind this. Like, he might know some effed up stuff is going on, but he doesn't have Tony Tech anymore. He doesn't have Friday in the glasses anymore.
Nope.
He's limited by what he knows.
You know what he does have though?
Hello, darkness,
My old friend. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh yes.
So this is a problem with the big shared cinematic universe.
Yeah.
It's going to happen from time to time. Again, yeah, I understand why Captain Marvel, Shang-Chi's in San Francisco, so he's not going to make it quickly. I can't think, really, again, the only one that really bugs me is Spider-Man. I'm like, he could have made it.
But I'm happy he didn't because like
Again, we run into a Hulk problem.
yeah, exactly. And this whole thing is to get us back into Daredevil to build his character up.
Mm-hmm.
Like, why would you pull away like the audience's like attention from Daredevil to Spider-Man? Like,
Because Spider-Man's just going to mess these guys up.
yeah, exactly. So I'm happy they didn't. Otherwise, you fall into an issue with like Arrow. I loved Arrow, like early Arrow, but then you have
As they keep increasing superpowers, you're kind of like, what?
yeah, you're like, oh, okay.
Yeah, again, I could see Luke Cage. You saw the riots during the night.
Yeah.
Luke Cage didn't even bother me. Luke Cage is in Harlem tamping down riots. Right? And notice the vigilante task force was really going after the masked guys and the guys who weren't showing their identities. There's something about that specifically, right? Because in the context of the MCU and the Sokovia Accord, everything that's happened, certain superheroes are just out and out, right? I think somebody in the thing got in there, like, Rhodey's like the Secretary of Defense or some nonsense, right? So he's down in Washington. Like, Sam Wilson is Falcon. Rhodey is War Machine. We know this is known. Jen is out. And in fact, they talk about this, actually, I thought very smartly in She-Hulk, where she's like, superheroes operate in the public eye. And it's Matt Murdock who's like, you chose to operate in the public eye. Not all of us do, and some of us want to remain anonymous. So, Kingpin's thing really does seem to be on the masked vigilantes, the anonymous superheroes. Also, because I think Kingpin doesn't want to piss off. He doesn't. He does not want to piss off the Avengers. Right? And this is the other thing that comes out of that last episode, which I thought was kind of clever, which is they figured out what Foggy was celebrating. Foggy figured out some legal loophole where Red Hook is not actually part of the country. Right? And so Kingpin's trying to build his own little city-state in New York. That's his goal. Right? Where he has jurisdiction and the Americans can't come after him. Now, again, to a degree, you're like, yeah, but the Avengers, like, if you piss off enough people, the Avengers will eventually show up. Or maybe the Thunderbolts.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
Maybe Jeff the Land Shark.
Maybe Jeff the Land Shark. Speaking of which, oh wait, I'm going to show you that in a few minutes. I'm going to find it. They're filming season 2 right now. Season 2, we don't have to wait 2 years. Jeff,
God.
we don't have to wait 2 years for a show to come back. We get season 2 of March of next year.
Oh shit, that's great.
Less than a year away. We've gotten some leaked set photos, right, of Daredevil in a black with the double D.
Oh, nice. Yeah.
Right?
Yep.
We know Karen's back. I think somehow Foggy's going to come back to life. I don't know. It's the Marvel fake death universe. Who knows who's really dead? And who knows what's going to happen after Secret Wars? Because that's going to be the soft reboot and the whole thing's going to reset. So we'll see. So yeah, overall, I'd say we're both fans of Daredevil. That was that's a 40-minute segment. We're going to cut this one now because that's a long segment.
That's a long thing. That's
Yeah.
what she said. Title of your sex tape.
All right, folks. Did you watch Daredevil? Did you enjoy it? Let us know down in the comments below.